I've been waiting for Mortal Kombat to come back to handhelds for a long time. I loved Mortal Kombat 9 both on the PlayStation Vita and in general, especially with how cinematic and movie-like NetherRealms made the series. And I was really sad that Mortal Kombat X never came out on a proper handheld. In all honesty, I experienced that game by watching all of its cutscenes as a movie on YouTube. Actually, in preparation for what we're going to talk about today, the newest game of the franchise that brought the series back to handhelds. Here is my review of Mortal Kombat 11 for the Nintendo Switch. The story picks up right where the last game ended, with a corrupted Raiden tired of defending Earthrealm and not getting anything back, now attacking all of Earthrealm's enemies and protecting it by any means necessary. This upsets the flow of time, which causes the Keeper of Time, Kronika, to reset everything, erasing the corrupted Raiden from existence, and merging timelines together in preparation for creating a new one where Raiden does not exist. In response to this threat, the warriors of Earthrealm and everybody from the past that is suddenly pulled into the present band together and fight a war against Kronika's minions to preserve their timeline and keep her from erasing it. Just like with Mortal Kombat 9 and 10, there is a huge amount of lore here, so much so that 11 not only ties into 9 and 10, but also all of the previous games of the series back to the original Mortal Kombat through Armageddon. There are also a lot of really nice and emotional character arcs, especially with some of the new characters that were introduced in 10. Despite this being a very violent and gruesome franchise, it's nice to see a tearjerker moment thrown into the story and done well. When it comes to gameplay, Mortal Kombat 11 is a 2D fighting game with a lot of customization thrown into the mix. Just like with previous games, when you're going through each stage and each fight, you're going to be doing one-on-one battles in 2D stages. The first thing we need to talk about is the fact that this game launched without some content that was in the other versions of the game. The Switch version originally did not have any of the character tutorials, announcer features, and a few other things. Thankfully, a patch came out last week that added all of that content back in, outside of being able to link to the mobile game. The Switch version still does not have that to my knowledge. Now let's talk about the game modes. Your main three things you're going to be doing are Story Mode, the Tower Mode, and Crypt. Story Mode is the bulk of the game where you see the cinematic story campaign, while the towers are kind of like arcade mode gauntlets. Though here you have a choice between controlling the character yourself or letting the AI control them for you. This also ties into all the customization you can do. Every playable character you can make different variations from, not only in cosmetic form but also in what moves they can use and how they act when the AI is controlling them. And when you go through the different game modes, you unlock normal stuff like artwork, but you also unlock a lot of cosmetic and enhancements for all of this customization stuff. And that's where the Crypt comes in. Rather than a fighting mode, this lets you explore a 3D environment, unlocking chests with currency you've gotten from the other modes to unlock all of your rewards. Those are the main game modes, but you also have some online and local multiplayer options, as well as some unique AI modes like the ability to create an AI team and have them fight other AI teams. But I'd say most of the time you're going to be spending on this game in single player will be the story campaign, which is slightly different than previous games. All of the quick time events outside of battles that were in Mortal Kombat X are not here. So while you're enjoying the movie-like story, you don't have to worry about quick time events. All you need to worry about is when battle starts. Most of the other changes to the game are in the combat system itself. A lot of things are similar, but we do have a new feature in the form of the Fatal Blow system. Whenever a character reaches 30% or lower health, they can tap the ZL and ZR buttons to do a huge ultimate attack that's really cinematic called a Fatal Blow. You can only do this once per match, but it does a huge number of damage depending on what character uses it. This gives you a lot of options if you're struggling, but also something you really need to watch out for because the opponent can do it too. So there's a lot of stuff that you can dive into and do, but one thing that I really don't like about this game is how internet focused it is. Now, it's not completely always online. Only one of the tower modes requires you to have an internet connection to be able to play it, but the rewards for all of the other game modes require an internet connection for you to get them. That means if you're riding the subway in airplane mode and are going through story mode, all of those single player rewards you won't get until you connect to the internet again. Now, I can understand rewards for online game modes requiring an internet connection, but single player, story mode? But let's get away from the bad and talk about content and length. The story mode should take you at least 8 to 10 hours to get through. I only had to redo a couple of the story mode fights and I cleared the story in a little bit under 8 hours. So if you're not adept at fighting games, it might take you up to 9 or 10 hours. Either way, it's going to take a good amount of time. And if you want to get all the story endings for each of the characters in the tower mode, you can easily add at least 4 to 10 hours onto that. Now let's dive into presentation, which is probably why you're here. Mortal Kombat on handhelds has always had a graphical downgrade. Mortal Kombat 9 on the Vita had a lot of jagged edges around its character models and a bit of blurriness. Mortal Kombat 11 also has a lot less detail in its character models. A lot of this starts with jagged edges around the details on the character renders, but the hair is rendered very strangely in this game. Whether you're in docked or handheld mode, the hair will sometimes come in as a different color, and all around just looks like it's rendered a little differently than everything else. Now, some of the characters look worse than others, especially those with a lot of hair that's not covered up, like Cassie Cage. But performance makes up for how it looks. Once you get into battle, everything is nice and smooth, at least outside of animations for some of the special attacks. Sometimes when you do fatal blows or fatalities, there's a bit of lag in the animation as it's playing. This is especially noticeable when you're in story mode and you have the little transitions between story cutscenes and battle and story cutscenes. The good thing is none of these lag segments are parts where you're controlling the game, so it's not going to mess you up in battle, but it's very noticeable. Now let's get out of presentation and into battery life, which I wasn't expecting much from. Mortal Kombat 11 has a battery range of 2 hours and 12 minutes on high settings, up to 2 hours and 55 minutes on low settings. Now in conclusion, Mortal Kombat returns to handhelds in its most cinematic and largest game yet. Now on the downside, there are a good number of problems, from the always online aspect of rewards to the cutscene lag and lack of detail in the character models. It doesn't look too pretty, but it's a blast to play through and enjoy its movie-like story. Reviews to Go rates Mortal Kombat 11 for the Nintendo Switch a 7 out of 10. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. Thanks for watching and have a great day.